I'm Em,
And I'm Lex.
and we're thrilled to welcome you to the Ready, Set, Coach podcast.
Now, we're not just your hosts. We're also mamas, entrepreneurs, coaches, friends, and co-founders of the Ready, Set, Coach community.
What began as a pandemic side hustle has blossomed into a vibrant online community crafted by coaches for coaches.
So when we're not immersed in our coaching community on Circle, we're busy managing our other businesses, navigating the ups and downs of life, and of course, recording this podcast.
This is where we dive deep into epic conversations about life, business, coaching,
and everything in between.
So are you ready, Lex?
I'm set, Em.
Let's coach.
Hey, Lex.
Hey,
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy 2024, 2024.
2024.
You're very distracted right now. What's happening?
Right. We just had the cleaners here, and a certain creature that lives in my house is now ruining the pillows on the bed. So
Well, that's her bed.
Yeah.
That is Daisy's bed. So there's no point in trying to pretend otherwise.
Literally, the sheets were just changed, and she just went.
Yep,
and is
that's
in the
her
middle.
territory. What are you thinking, crazy girl?
Yeah, sharing. It's crazy. So Lex, I want to tell you I'm doing dry January.
Yeah, you did sure tell me that. That's fun. So what's your why behind Dry January?
I realized that whenever I'm in a place, and maybe this is I'm like a people-pleasing personality, but I'm out to dinner, it's really hard for me. I feel like I'm disappointing the waiter when they're like, "Would you like something to drink?" And I can't say no. And so I need to have a reason to say no. So for example, like being pregnant was awesome. Be like, "Oh, I'm pregnant, mocktail list." Or like, "Oh, I'll just stick with water." And so I think dry January has been interesting as like a tactic of learning how to say no for a reason. Otherwise, if we were hanging out, you offered me a drink, I'd be like, yeah, of course, no problem. So more just in practicing saying no.
Although I don't feel like you like drinking.
I do love drinking, actually. I think I'm an extremist, which I think you know about me, and I'm like CJ and hobbies and blah, blah,
All the
blah.
things. Well, okay, I'm gonna let you finish the thought before I say something.
Well, I'd say like when I drink, like you and I have experienced this together where we'll finish a bottle and be like, another bottle? So I can,
Okay, that happened once. You get drunk off of half a glass of wine. So if you were gonna say that you go all in, I wanted to give you a compliment that you don't. I think you're very, um, I think you're actually really great and like good at saying no and good at not overdoing it. So, as the outside looking in, I think you're being hard on yourself, but I love that your why is you motivated.
Yeah, it's me motivated. It's definitely not, it's been interesting. It basically started like a few college girlfriends were like, "Do you want to do dry January and create a little accountability chat?" Like, yeah, sure. And then truthfully, I've never finished a dry January. Like I've always had something that has popped up or a trip or never felt a desire. And I think it's more just kind of like, can I make it 30 days without saying yes?
This is a big topic. Right before we clicked record, it's like, hey Emily, let's talk about something light that's not triggering. And this is where you go. Here's what I'll say on
A trigger?
the topic of alcoholism. Not alcoholism, but like alcohol. Okay, here's what I meant. Here's where I meant to go with that. If y'all are listeners to this, I have another company. It's called the PR Bar. Like it's all punned around bar and alcohol. I am not someone who is, I'm not sober. But I will say what's been really interesting and defining in my relationship with alcohol is when I studied abroad in Italy and I lived in Italy and seeing Italians' relationship with wine and how it's just such a natural part of their culture and it's not taboo. You come back to America and there's so many extremes. It's like you're
Totally.
an alcoholic if every doctor, you drink how much, you drink every day, you're an alcoholic. Or I had to go sober. There's just so many extremes that it's always really, really bothered me that it's such a hot topic of discussion. So in a way, dry January is triggering to me,
Mhm.
honestly, and upsetting because it's implying that drinking is wrong or
Mhm.
bad, where I think in life, everything's about moderation. And I hate that it's just such a focal point. And I think everyone's allowed to have their own health journey with alcohol. I'm not saying by any means that like everyone should drink, but the fact that it's such a polarizing topic and that it needs to be such this big all or nothing thing is upsetting to me.
Great. Cool, cool, cool. I picked something triggering.
Yep, sure did. So on that note, what's actually really interesting, that's a good segue because Emily and I have been going through a really interesting flip of a script in the last month. And what I mean by that is Emily and I are really, really used to selling together. We have been on many, many sales calls. We love it. We think sales are fun. We're crazy people. But for the first time in a long time, Emily, what are we doing now?
We're sitting in the buying seat. And honestly, Lex, it kind of feels like you're at a car dealership. Um, this time last year, my husband and I, we ended up getting a new car, and it's bringing back very similar feelings of being skeptical and feeling like you were being schmoozed and you're being duped, or you're being like tactics are being done on you. And I think as someone who sells tactics, we teach our clients how to sell. It's interesting to identify and to discuss post call, like, ooh, that was awesome, or like, oh, that did not work on us at all, or that really like left me with a bad taste in my mouth. So what do you think, Lex? Do you want to start with
Well,
what?
no, what I was just going to say, I think what's been so interesting and it is us being in the buyer's seat together for the first time in a long time has brought up so much, and our perspective and how we're analyzing it is so different than, I don't know, at least the last time I was in a serious buyer's seat for coaching. And so it's been really, we wanted to do an episode today on what we've noticed through the process, because I think understanding the buyer's seat and being in the buyer's seat can give us a lot of insight that we can take back with us to the seller's seat. So I will say this, and probably no one listening for a long time will be surprised to hear that Emily and I are very different buyers.
What?
What?
No.
Shocker.
No. Actually, I've been to Target with you. I feel like we're similar there.
Well, retail. So we're
Yeah.
different. And let's clarify what we're in the buyer's seat for. We have been in the buyer's seat. We have decided we want to learn the new skill set of paid advertising and how we can leverage it with the Ready Set Coach community and some various products, digital products we want to sell. And so we both decided that we want to hire a coach to be on this journey with us, because we want to not just invest in ads, we want to learn the ads. So it's something we can also like doubly
Each.
provide insight on for future clients.
Yeah, this is definitely something we don't want to hire a marketing agency to have it done for us. This is something that, to most of the people listening who have hired coaches, like, we want to learn this skill. We want to be able to speak the language of the skill and be able to do it on our own terms and on our own time, versus waiting for a marketing agency to send updates and whatnot. We're fast moving folks, so we're looking for a coach to teach us these skills, which has been really entertaining and fun.
It will. And I think maybe let's start with the places, the things that we have in common. So,
Well, I
no,
want to also, before we even start there, I want to talk about like how we found coaches and how we've
great.
searched
Let's do that.
coaches.
That's a really great idea.
So
Yeah.
I think first and foremost, it's been interesting because the first coach that we talked to was a referral, through some people that we trust.
Well,
And
and specifically, I saw an Instagram story
you saw it
of
in
our
his story.
yep, of a
Okay.
mutual contact of ours, and I DM'd her because she was talking about this mastermind group that she was in, focused on advertising. I was like, ding, ding, ding. And this is a contact Emily and I, we both know and trust her. And
And that,
so, yeah, it was Instagram story.
okay. So the first one, Instagram story, then voice note referral. Second one was was a Facebook group where this person led the Facebook group. And then I started chatting with this individual in a Facebook group. And then the third one, Lex, you want to share how you found
The
that one?
third one, I was in an online community and I saw this gal posting that she was doing a free class for advertising. So I was like, oh, hell yeah, like we're looking for this. I'm gonna go and learn. And I had no idea this gal was even selling. But at the end of the class, I learned she did have a program coming up. And so being on that class and having experienced her expertise real hand was like a no-brainer for me to want to learn more and then
Mhm.
loop Emily into the conversation.
And so I think that, and then the other ways that we were looking for people too was we were using Instagram and we were searching for a very specific person. We were using Google, but Google wasn't as effective. I think Instagram provided more what we were searching for.
I posted in a few online communities that I was searching for something and was asking for referrals
Yep.
that actually didn't prove to be too fruitful.
Yeah, that was interesting. And then I'm trying to think of any other things that we've done. We looked at our already existing contacts. That was another thing that we did. We're like, who is already in our community that is potentially doing what we're looking for, and we could reach out to them first and foremost.
Yes. So interesting because we've had episodes on this podcast where we reflect on how our clients came to us, and it pretty
Mhm.
much was a hodgepodge across different channels, marketing channels. Same here, guys. All these coaches came to us across varying channels.
And I would say that the commonality in our search was we were looking for very specific words. And so again, reflecting on your own offering, like, are the words clear for you to be found? If you were using Instagram, if you're using Google, is your SEO up to date? Is your Instagram handle searchable? Or are you like, I make magic happen, which is super vague and I have no idea what that means.
Like keyword on Instagram, right? We were looking for like ad expert, ad coach, Facebook ad coach. We were looking for those niche words.
Yes. So that's lesson number one. So Lex, I think then let's talk about getting on the sales call and what sales calls were like for you.
For me or for the things
Oh,
that
for us, the commonality.
okay, we'll start commonalities and then we can like
Yeah.
break down. So Emily and I sat down before this episode, guys, and we put this to paper because we want this to be very, very clear for you. So first thing Emily and I resonated with, and one of the reasons one of the gals lost us was we want to feel wanted and special. So for the girl who lost us, we're not going to share any specifics today. In a follow-up sequence, we felt that it was a very templatized response and experience. We didn't feel like she was truly taking the time to customize her communication to us and our specific needs.
Yeah. And I would say in terms of even on the sales call, speaking to our particular needs. And we have a whole episode on active listening and the power of regurgitating our problem and then filling in how she would solve said problem with this group program. If she had gone into that specificity, our decision may have been different.
Yeah, so she was too general, honestly.
Yeah.
That was something. What else is a common point?
A common point was we really wanted to know who else was in the room. And I thought that was an interesting thing because we haven't had that as much with Ready Set Coach, but we were both, especially since we were wanting to learn this very specific deliverable. We wanted to make sure that we were not going to be, especially in a mastermind setting, we didn't want to be in a room full of people that were just starting their business. We didn't want to be so ahead of the people that we felt like we would be bored or coaching the individuals. A lot of times that can happen. If you're the stronger person in the group, then you're not learning as much. So I think who was sitting in the room with us in that particular format was important to us.
Yep. I'll also share some things that it's again, it's so funny as business coaches who teach how to sell, we're very in tune with tactics that were being tried on us. And time scarcity is a tactic, or like a deadline is a tactic. We've certainly taught because it can work, but it does not work on us. So time scarcity tactics or deadlines or need to know by did not make us feel any sort of urgency, which is interesting. And I wonder why that is. Why do you think that is?
I think we knew we wanted to buy, but we were also wanting to buy on our timeline versus like, oh, we have to know if we want this special bonus, we have to let her know by X, Y, and Z date. We needed more time to mull it over and to marinate on the experience.
Yeah. What
I think
else?
I would say the other thing that was interesting is we really wanted past client examples that looked like us. So, for example, like this is what we want to do. I want this coach to be able to be like, we had a client just like you. They had a price point that was, $20 off of your price point that you want to offer things at. And this is how much money we spent on ads. And this is how often she ran her ads. And this is blah, 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 blah. We wanted like specificity. Specificity? Is that the right word?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. It sounded weird all of a sudden. Yeah, we wanted specific numbers and examples and to be able to see like what our future could look like. And that's something that we talk about in our selling too. Like if a client can see themselves getting that result because a past client has achieved that result, it's easier to see yourself working with that person.
I think a commonality for us too that threads a lot of these together is we knew what we wanted. We know how we work, we knew what we wanted to learn, and because I think of being coaches and coaching coaches, we and we'll talk a little bit about our differences in a second here, but we we didn't necessarily have an opening to be convinced, meaning we knew what we wanted to spend. So if someone came at a
Yeah.
price point outside of that, sorry, like we've already crunched the numbers. This wasn't a price objection because we don't see your value. It's just we know what we want to invest in this. We're at a point in business where we understand our numbers, and this is we know what we want to spend. We also know what we're looking to get out of this. So when people tried to upsell us with other features, you'll hear in our differences, this worked. Sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. So maybe I guess that segues into our differences.
Well, no, I would say one more thing too, when we talked about like both feeling special and wanted, but we both really craved like that high touch access to the person and one-on-one involvement. So like we didn't want to be lumped in a group and not have access to the person that's teaching the group. We also didn't want to like be sold by an enrollment person. Like we wanted to meet the coach that would be teaching things. We wanted that hands-on experience. Essentially, we wanted to be like, coddled. I thought it sounds like.
Yeah. Well, I think, this is a gross word, and this is not the word I mean. There's a little bit of maybe narcissism involved in wanting to receive what we feel we deliver ourselves. We feel we're high touch coaches, and that's where our clients get a lot of values. And I think here's a more positive way to say that, want our turn to be held.
Yeah,
Like
I think
classic Emily Merrill saying.
Oh my God, so funny. No, it's true. I mean, I think that's why we both probably struggle the most in therapy. We're like, we could be coaching you how to be a better therapist, but I have to shut my trap and let you tell me why I'm feeling this way. So Lex, let's talk about our differences. Where did we deviate from our buying styles?
So here's what I ended up really looking for. I really, really was looking for acumen. I wanted to see their brains, and I wanted to um, feel like their knowledge level was really further than mine. And that's not to say you weren't looking for brains, but I think on the opposite spectrum, you cared more about another category that I didn't, which is
Being held.
likability. Likability.
Likability vibe, like the person's personality. Like, am I gonna be scared and do the homework, or am I gonna respect this person? I've worked with coaches before where I did every single homework because I didn't want to disappoint them, but I needed a vibe with the person. That was always important to me. Not having that vibe is hard to, I don't know. it's just harder for me. I'm a vibe person.
Hey everyone, Lex here.
And Em.
And if you haven't heard, we did something pretty darn cool.
We sure did. We launched a completely free community built specifically for coaches.
Say it again for the people in the back.
We launched a free community for coaches. Tell them quickly who it's for and what we're doing inside, Lex.
Sure thing. So it's for anyone from the coaching curious to side hustlers to coaches ready to scale. And through the virtual platform that we've built, we've created a safe and fun space to learn, launch, grow, connect, ideate, collaborate, vent, and evolve together.
Nailed it, Lex. Now, while it's free, you must apply in order to gain a free membership. You know, so we can make sure everyone inside is awesome, like us.
Apply today at readysetcoachcommunity.com. You know what's interesting? I'm reflecting further. I think because I need vibes too, but I think it depends in what. Because This is such a specific task, and I'm not looking for, a 6-month business coach or mindset coach who is going to go through all the feels with me. I don't necessarily really need to like them as much as I feel I need to respect them. And so that's something that kept coming up for me. And other ways this came up is I really needed to see social proof and credibility. We are on this one call with a business coach who had an incredibly high price tag. And when I asked her to explain to me her business background, she only explained it to me in the terms of her recent coaching business. For me, I wanted to hear okay, why do you even become a business coach? What is your business knowledge extensively? And so almost in a way, it's I didn't feel like I didn't know, and trust her enough to feel like I'm ready to learn from her.
Yeah, versus other people who were able to name drop some really significant companies that they worked for and provide real tangible examples of the clients that they had that were big name clients. And I'm on board with this too, Lex. I think this aspect of oh, I trust you to fly this plane because you've had these hours under your belt.
Yeah, I think the big company names is sexy. I also appreciated the gal that we're ultimately going to be going with. I appreciated that she had both. So while she had the big sexy names, I then would put her on the spot to explain, great, so we don't have a big sexy budget like such and such company. So what could you do with a small business like ours? And she was able to demonstrate in real time how that strategy shifted. So she was, something Emily and I teach is on a sales call, coach a little bit. This is your opportunity to provide value. And I felt I was getting to see true proof of her acumen, and I was learning something as she was sharing.
And I would say, I know we're going back and forth on this one, Lex, but I feel like a lot of the other ones that we were referencing, they didn't really coach us on the call, which was disappointing. Reflecting back on this, you do want a taste of what it would be like to be coached or to be challenged or to be asked certain questions and reflections by an individual. And we didn't really get that from the first two we referenced.
Yeah, you're so right. Thinking back. Another one you guys are not going to be shocked to hear. I cared a lot about the nuts and bolts, the details, the format, the structure. Where you're definitely more open-minded than I am in this vein.
I am more open-minded. I think we went in this with a particular need, but we were open. Both of us were open-minded to the way it was delivered, whether it was a group, whether it was a mastermind, whether it was one-on-one. But ideally, we really did desire more that one-on-one approach. We're not going with that.
There was this one recap email we got with these are all the bullet points of the program, and I went through and I crossed out the ones I'm I don't think we need this, I don't think we need this, and Emily's well, you're not wrong, but I think there could be a benefit and there would be interesting to experience this. And so I saw you, and I think that's what I'm grateful for in our relationship. It's we are able to kind of challenge each other and I think help us grow a little bit more, where maybe I challenge you to ask the question why more, and you challenge me to loosen up a bit more and be more open-minded. So I think that's a nice balance.
I think that's so nice, Lex. But I want to tell you about Lexi in AP English. She was nope, we don't need to read this book. This isn't the Odyssey. F that shit. Like, nope, nope. And then she handed it to her English teacher and walked out of the class. And no, just kidding.
True story. Quick scroll.
Is that really?
I wrote you've probably heard this, you're gonna hear it again. I wrote a 12-page, my friend and I, both A students in college, wrote a 12-page paper on chickens. It was relevant. We got an F. I went back to the teacher. I'm like, there's no freaking way I got an F. She denied me. We both thought there were some underlying biases involved. I took it to the dean of the college and I, without context, asked them to grade the paper. Got an A. So then I was able, and I pulled dean and professor into the same room and I had them change my grade. They ended up meeting in the middle. Long story long, but like to the point of like challenging. It's like very my personality.
Wait, Lexi, why did you write about chickens and why did you?
It was an animals and media class. So you had to like take
Oh.
and pick an animal and write about its history in media. I don't know why we picked chickens. Maybe we thought it was funny. I can't remember that detail, but I remember being hell-bent on like, there is no freaking way I am accepting this grade. You are wrong, professor. And she was wrong.
She was wrong. That's interesting. That's straight up giving you an F without any.
She didn't like, I'm not going to get into that.
Okay,
There
well,
were some biases involved.
okay. We will chat
For another day.
later.
For another day.
Offline. Okay, I'm trying to think of any other things too. Yeah, nuts and bolts. Do.
Okay, here's where I want to kind of pull this back. Something we've coached on and probably something that we've talked about on this podcast. Who knows? I don't know. There are masculine, like if you're going to categorize types of buyers, one thing you can start to think about are like masculine buyers and more feminine buyers. Is it someone who's buying based on feeling? Is it someone who's buying more based on nuts and bolts? And while I think you and I both have components of both, I definitely skew more masculine and you definitely yeah, meaning I care about the nuts and the bolts
Oh,
and the
you're more masculine than me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did I say that wrong?
Yeah. I
I'm
was like,
masculine.
yes. Okay.
You skew more feminine.
Correct.
And so that's been such a living example on these sales calls of if that person who they're appealing more to.
Yeah.
And our winner ultimately appealed to, I think, both of us.
I think so too. Yeah, and I think the winner also, she did a really good job of just talking us through the problems, talking through the details. We know exactly what we're walking into. The price point was the right price point for us as well. I think the timing was the right timing. So a lot of times people are like, oh my God, no one's buying my program. Remember that timing is a huge factor. Like
Yeah, it
I
is.
always think back to Sex and the City and dating. Like your light needs to be on. You need to be actively looking for this particular solution. If not, then it can be hard to change someone or convince someone to put their light on when they're not actively wanting their light on.
One other thing I briefly want to share, because I think it's worth being aware of. Something that turned me off, one of the coaches, the highest price point one. So in theory, like the one who probably has seen the most success in this coaching space. I was in her audience in a marketing funnel capacity. And I was getting a ton of content delivered to my inbox, automated content, in tandem with her one-on-one outreach. And the content that was being delivered and still is, I'm about to unsubscribe, is kind of is not hitting me correctly. Like it's very much targeted at a different person. And so when she's trying to sell me that she's further along in business, but all of her marketing content is for a more novice entrepreneur, there's a juxtaposition. So the lesson I just want to highlight here is be mindful of what your prospects are seeing and hearing outside of your one-on-one. What are you posting about on social? They can probably
Yeah.
see it. What emails do you have set up? So just something to be mindful of, something I think for me hurt this person.
Yeah. I think that's a good point too, especially if you're being, I think going through her process was interesting as well, because we were being sold something that was like high ticket, and yet she typically delivers on like a group program. And so I feel like all of the onboarding and whatnot was very much geared to the group program. So it was a bit confusing also going through that.
Exactly. Basically what I mean. I'm like,
Yeah.
I felt very confused on you're supposed to lead me through this, but yet
You're
everything
talking
I've
about
seen
this.
is this.
Yeah, exactly. So this felt like a very out of the blue kind of opportunity and ticket. I completely agree. Yeah, I think the learnings on this one, and Lex, I'm gonna jump into homework. I'm gonna be wild and
Oh,
crazy here.
okay.
I know. Oh yeah, don't you know it, guys?
Want to know.
But I'm gonna say is take a quick look, give yourself like 30 minutes, Gil, and look at your offer and look at how you're communicating your offer. Who are you communicating your offer to? Is what you're communicating clear? Are you communicating in a more masculine way or a more feminine way? Also, like, can you audit the last 2 sales calls that you sold to that didn't go according to plan? Like, if you were to speculate, like, what didn't go right for you? Was it the way that you made the person feel? Was it because you were too pushy? Was it because you were too unpushy? Like, what were the things? That would be
Here-
my homework.
That's Emily's homework. Here's mine. I actually want you to do the opposite and sit in the buyer's seat. I want you to analyze the last time I know you hate me. I want you to analyze the last time you bought. And I want you to do what Emily and I did. And I want you to sit down and I want you to highlight what was important for you, what worked, what didn't. And then I think going into your process, like Emily said, is it aligned? Are you
Yeah.
accounting for the things you've identified? Because there is some level of you're going to attract sometimes a similar buyer to yourself. Just there's a personality vibe thing there. So look at your buyer's journey and then reflect it to M's point back on how you're currently selling.
Love it, Lex. Love it. Wow. We are
Love it.
totally,
Love it. Wow. As she rolls her eyes at me.
we are so the odd couple. I love it. I do
As
love
she secretly flips me off in her brain. I see
Oh,
it
yeah,
in
you
your
didn't
in
see
your
it?
eyes.
Oh, right. I'm about to see it right here. No, I'm just kidding. No, in all seriousness, Gil, I am so with Lex. I think it is a healthy, uncomfortable experience to be sold to. And I think a lot of the reasons why we dislike selling is because we remember that feeling of being sold to. So thinking of experiences where you've been sold to, where you're really excited and you leave the call excited about whatever it is that you're buying, I think is a great place to put as a point of reference of how you want to make your buyers feel.
With that said, you guys,
We'll see you next time
on
on
the Ready,
Ready,
Set,
Set, Coach.
podcast.
If you're enjoying the Ready Set Coach podcast, please leave a review wherever you are listening. For more information about Ready Set Coach, visit readysetcoachprogram.com.